Welcome into another edition of Mile High Hockey. Mike Evans and Will Peterson with you as always. Mike, the Avalanche last night against the Panthers played a game that to me felt like a playoff game. I said it on social media. This is a rematch we could see in June. Obviously, the Panthers, the defending champions. And my biggest takeaway is it's so refreshing to be able to win 3-1 games again because you have good goaltending and timely goals on the other side.
You know, it's funny, Will, because we couldn't do this earlier in the season because they weren't playing well, but now it's fun to be back into where we can talk about matchups and say, this is a potential Western Conference Finals preview or a potential Stanley Cup Finals preview, and you don't feel silly talking about it. But you're absolutely right. The Avalanche continue to play well defensively. I thought it was interesting after the game yesterday, Jared Bednar was asked, is this the best you've played defensively compared to earlier on in the season? And he kind of gave this little like wry grin. And he said, you know, there were parts of the season earlier where we were playing well defensively. We just weren't getting the saves behind us. So once again, the Avalanche, whether it's guys like Bednar, Nathan MacKinnon the other day, they're not even tiptoeing around it. They are like driving the bus over Alexander Georgiev, backing it up, beep, 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 and going right over him again. They're not hiding the fact that, hey, this guy was terrible, and now we figured out the goaltending, and now look at us.
Yeah, and Mackenzie Blackwood had a save percentage of like .962 last night. A couple saves in the third period, Mike, where you're like, oh, yeah, that's a reminder of what it's like to have a great goalie. I mean, Bobrovsky on the other side for Florida was excellent as well, but the Avs get 2 goals from Devon Toews, who seems like he's back. Mikko Rantenen adds an empty netter for the 3-1 win. But yeah, I mean, for Blackwood to outdo Bobrovsky is big, and for Toews to get you 2 goals, he said after the game, he's starting to feel like himself again.
Yeah, he said it makes a big difference when you're healthy, and he's feeling healthy, but even a healthy Devon Toews, you don't expect him to become a sniper. Add him to the list of Avalanche snipers. That's 4 goals in the last 4 games for Devon Toews. He's on a heater, but we knew that the change in goal would probably be beneficial. But boy, the eye test. But how about the numbers? Okay, in 9 games for the Avalanche, Mackenzie Blackwood is 7-1-1. Alexander Georgiev was 8-7 in 19 games with the Avalanche. Compare the goals against, like 3.38 for Georgiev, 1.69 for Blackwood. Save percentage, 870 save percentage for Blackwood. For Georgiev, almost 94%, 940 save percentage for Georgiev. For Blackwood, I'm getting the 2 confused. I shouldn't do that. My apologies, Blackwood. But you know, you've seen it with your own eyes as a fan watching the goaltending difference, but just some numbers to back up just how stark the difference is between these 2 guys.
Yeah, I mean, Chris McFarland's looking like the GM of the year, and I don't follow Sharks Twitter very closely, Mike, but every time I do, it's like, send Georgiev to the AHL. I don't think he's doing much better in San Jose. All right, let's look back a little before we look forward, because you and I haven't chatted since Thursday, and Thursday, that was the game of the year, at least thus far, against the Buffalo Sabres. That game was nuts, Mike, between the Scott Wedgwood injury, the clown on the Sabres celebrating a goal when Wedgwood is withering in pain, Gerard going after him, the Avs making it 5-3, then 5-4, Drouin scores to make it 5-5 with 6 seconds left, Ballerina pops and goes nuts, and then Toews, speaking of Toews, wins it in overtime. Your takeaway from that Sabres game, and luckily, looks like they dodged a bullet on the Wedgwood injury. We're only hearing a couple of weeks. He was actually spotted this morning on the ice for the Avalanche down at Family Sports, as was Valeri Nichushkin. But I know it's a few days ago, but we can't do a hockey podcast and not talk about that Sabres game.
I have no problem talking about a game that's only a week old, because if the Avalanche are able to win another Stanley Cup, and we look back on this season, there are going to be a few regular season games that I will circle and go back to and say, this is when this team gave us those glimpses, those signs that they could be a real special team. And absolutely, this Buffalo game is one of them, because in the long grind of an 82-game season, a lot of the regular season games kind of blend together, but a few stand out. And that Buffalo game certainly was one of them because of the way that they were able to come back, how Jared Bednar stood up for his team after the Wedgwood injury, how the players responded afterwards, pulling out two empty net or two goals with your net being empty to force the overtime, and then getting the game winner to win a game like that, and all the elements that went into that game. That's not your regular run-of-the-mill regular season win. And so if you go on to have the kind of postseason run and postseason success that it's looking like now is possible with this team, you're going to look back on certain games, and definitely that Buffalo game will be one that we will be looking back on well into June.
Yeah, and I just think it was huge that, Bednar has said a couple of times, if Wedgwood had a high ankle sprain, that's 6 weeks minimum. All the scans have showed he doesn't. So not only did they dodge a bullet, but I am going to tie this in. I thought Buffalo got a big dose of karma in that game, Mike, because, again, the celebration, you look like such a clown to celebrate when the opposing goalie is withering in pain. If you want to take the goal, I guess I don't blame you.
Yeah,
but
no.
to celebrate like that was a joke, and the Avs made Buffalo pay. Hopefully the Broncos can make the city of Buffalo pay for that too.
Yeah, I'm one of those types. I'm a curse karma. Sports karma type guy. I totally believe in it. I don't think you should mess around with that kind of stuff. And when you do those kind of things and you act like a clown, the hockey gods will come back around. And they did. And all it took was that game for the hockey gods to come around.
Yeah, and let's hope they talk to the football gods as well. All right, Mike, quick peek at the standings. And I was looking at these last night, and there's 11 teams in the NHL with 50 points. The Avalanche are one of them with 51. And the leader is the Vegas Golden Knights with 57. The elite teams are starting to emerge. We're getting closer to mid-January. That makes sense. But it is just a fresh reminder that there was so much panic around the start, and there needed to be about the goalies, but Chris McFarland addressed it. All of a sudden, you look up, the Avalanche are 6 points back of the President's Trophy after what felt like a really topsy-turvy roller coaster ride in October and November.
Not to pat myself on the back, but I tried to tell all of you not to worry about the Avalanche. I told you that they would fix the goaltending situation. They did. And I told you that this team had only their best hockey ahead of them. Consider this, Will. It was just about a week ago. They were 11 points behind Winnipeg. They're now down to, I think, 5 points behind Winnipeg. They've played the same number of games. I'm telling you, when it's all said and done, they're going to zoom past Minnesota. They're going to climb past Winnipeg. They're going to win the Central Division, and it's going to be a neck-and-neck battle the rest of the way between them and Vegas for the best record in the West. The Avalanche will either be the number 1 or number 2 seed in the West when it's all said and done.
Okay, but little pushback. You were saying that when Georgiev was still the goalie. Now, you also said the playoff goalie wasn't on the roster, but I don't think you could have even dreamt up how well Blackwood and Wedgwood would be working thus far.
You're right. This immediate, you're right. Probably not. But I felt that the Avs had a heater in their future this year. I guess I didn't think it would happen this quickly. But they're on one right now, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, the only thing, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer at the end of the show, but they go to Chicago on Wednesday night. Sounds like that's going to be a Trent Miner game. We don't know much about Trent Miner, called up from the Eagles. But the good news, we've seen the Avs win games 7-5 before, and you can beat the Blackhawks 7-5.
They'll be fine. They'll be fine.
I love it. Mike, I appreciate your time.
I started to think we could put you between the pipes, Will Peterson, and you would give me a scrappy 7-5 victory, closing the door, making about maybe 10 saves, but closing the door, probably save percentage around 64, but still being able to come away with the W.
Okay. Well, we'll hope Trent Miner can do just that. He's still a good player. We're not trying to diminish him, but we just don't know anything about Mr. Miner. So time to go make a name for himself. Mike, appreciate the time as always. Everyone else, we'll be back on Thursday for another edition of Mile High Hockey.